Hello, hello, kiddies. Everybody ready? This is chapter 18, Freedom. We're at page 199. That's a lot of pages, but we don't have a lot to go. Here, look at how many we got to go. See? The little one is the ones we have to go. Here we go. Freedom. Everybody ready? Sitting nice with your brothers and sisters and your puppies? The news of Serena's arrival on Bird Lake had finally reached the head man in charge of the birds. He's the one that clipped their wings. He went out to look at her and was delighted. He gave an order to one of the other guys. See to it that she has her wings clipped this morning. Right away, before she flies off and leaves us. He's going to clip her wings. That swan is a valuable bird and very pretty. Make sure she doesn't get away. Louis was just waking up from his nap when he saw two of the keepers approaching Serena, who was standing on the shore near one of the fences. One of the keepers carried a large net with a long handle, and the other had some kind of knives. They were sneaking up on Serena from behind, very slowly and quietly. Louis knew right away what they were up to, and he was very angry. If those men succeeded in catching Serena and cutting the tips of her wings, all of his plans would be wrong. She could never fly away to the lonely lake with him, and she would have to remain in Philadelphia for the rest of her life. A horrible fate, unless you like cheese steaks, inside out or whatever. Hey, look at the picture. See them sneaking up on her? Ooh. This is my moment, thought Louis. Nobody is going to clip my love's wings while I'm around. And he hustled over to the island, and he stripped off all of his things around his neck. He threw his trumpet and his other stuff under a willow tree, and then he returned to the water and waited for the right time to attack. The keeper holding the net was crawling quietly up on Serena from the rear, and she didn't notice him. She was just standing there, dreaming of Louis. Slowly, very slowly, the keeper raised his net, and as he did so, Louis went into action, lowering his long, powerful neck until it pointed straight out in front of him like an arrow. He streaked across the water, straight at the keeper, his wings beating in the air and his feet beating the water. In a flash, he reached the scene and drove his strong bill right into the seat of the man's pants. Oh! It was a well-aimed jab. The keeper doubled over and dropped the net. The other one tried to grab Serena by her throat, but Louis beat him over the head with his wings, striking terrific blows and knocking the poor fellow off his feet. All the knives bounced into the air. The net fell into the water. One guy groaned and held his butt, and the other one just was laying on the ground, almost knocked out. Serena slipped quickly into the water and glided gracefully away, and Louis followed. He motioned for her to stay on the lake. Then he reached back to the island, grabbed his trumpet, his slate, his chalk, his pencil, his medal, and his money bags, and he flew over and walked boldly into the birdhouse. He was still very angry. He went straight to the office of the head man in charge of the birds, and he knocked on the door with his beak. "Come in," said a voice. Louis entered. The head man was seated at his desk. "Hello, Louis," he said. "Caw-caw," replied Louis through his trumpet. "What's on your mind?" asked the man. Louis placed his trumpet on the floor and took the slate and the pencil from his neck. "I'm in love," he said. The head man leaned back in his chair and put his hands behind his head. His face had a faraway look, and he gazed out the window for a moment in silence. Here he is. Here it is. Look. If we see it. There you go. Well, he said, it's a natural thing. You're young and you're talented. In a couple of months, spring will be here. All birds fall in love in springtime. I suppose you're in love with one of my young swans. Serena, wrote Lewis on the chalkboard. She arrived the day before yesterday. I used to know her slightly back in Montana, and she loves me too. That doesn't surprise me, said the headman. You're a very unusual young cob. Any young female swan would fall for you. You're a great trumpeter, one of the best. One of the best? I guess he's seen others, huh? I'm delighted to hear about this love affair, Lewis. You and the bride can stay right here on Bird Lake and raise your family in comfort and safety in the oldest zoo in the United States. Now there's a trivia tidbit. The Philadelphia Zoo? Lewis shook his head. I've other plans, he wrote. Then he set his slate down and raised his trumpet. They say falling in love is wonderful. It was an old song by Irving Berlin. The room was filled with the sound of love and music, and the headman had a dreamy look in his eyes. Lewis set down his horn and took up his slate again. I'm taking Serena away with me in a day or two. Oh, no, you're not, said the headman firmly. Serena now belongs to the zoo. She is the property of the people of Philadelphia. She came here because she wanted to. No, said Lewis. It was because of the wind. Well, anyway, said the headman, she's my swan. No, she's mine, said Lewis. She's mine by reason of the power of love, the greatest force on earth. The headman became thoughtful. You can't take Serena from the zoo. She'll never fly again. My keepers clipped one of her wings a few minutes ago. They tried to, said Lewis, but I beat them up. The headman looked surprised. Was it a good fight? It was a fair fight, said Lewis. They were sneaking up on her from behind, so I sneaked up on them from behind. They hardly knew what hit them. The headman laughed. I wish I had seen it, he said. But look here, Lewis, you've got to realize the position I'm in. I've got a duty to the people of Philadelphia. Within the last couple of months, I've acquired 2 rare birds by accident, you and Serena. 2 trumpeter swans. One arrived here blown by a gale, the other to keep a nightclub engagement. The whole business is most unusual for a zoo. I have my responsibility to the public of Philadelphia. It is my duty as the head man in charge of birds to see that Serena stays in the lake. You, yourself, of course, are free to come and go because Mr. Lucas insisted that you remain free when we arrange for your Sunday concert. But in Lewis's case, but in Serena's case, well, Lewis, she's got to have her left wing clipped so she can't fly. The zoo can't afford to lose a young, beautiful, valuable trumpeter swan just because you happen to be in love. Besides, I think you're making a great mistake. If you and Serena stay here, you'll be safe. You'll have no enemies, no worries. No fox, no otter, no coyote will ever attack you. You'll never go hungry. You'll never get shot at. And everything will be fine. And every spring, if you have cygnets, they'll be hatched and they'll live a long and peaceful life on the lake. What more could a young cob ask? Freedom, replied Lewis on his slate. Safety is all well and good. I prefer freedom. You know, he might have listened to John Adams. With that, he picked up his trumpet and played, Button Up Your Overcoat When the Wind Blows Free. The headman smiled. He knew just what Lewis meant. For a while, the two remained silent. Lewis put his trumpet aside, then he wrote, I ask 2 favors. Put off the operation on Serena until after Christmas. I'll guarantee she won't try to escape. Second, let me send a telegram. Okay, replied the head man, and he handed Lewis a sheet of paper and a pencil and wrote out the telegram to Sam Beaver. It said, I am in the Philadelphia Zoo. This is an emergency. Come at once. I will pay your airplane fare for the ticket. I am now wealthy. Signed, Lewis. He handed the telegram to the head man, along with $4 from his money bag. The head man was astounded. In all his days at the zoo, this was the first time one of the birds had asked him to send a telegram. And of course, he didn't know who Sam Beaver was, but he sent the telegram, and he ordered his keepers to let Serena alone for a few days, which they were very glad to do after getting beaten up by Lewis. Lewis thanked him and left, returned to Serena, and they spent the day happily together, bathing, swimming, and eating, and drinking, and showering, and they had a great time. Sam had arrived at the zoo on the day after Christmas. He was equipped as though he was going into the woods. Under one arm was a sleeping bag. On his back was his backpack with all his stuff, his toothbrush, his comb, a clean shirt, an axe, a pocket compass, his notebook, a pencil, some food. He had his hunting knife. Sam was 14 now and big for his age, and he'd never seen a large zoo. He and Lewis were overjoyed to see each other again. And here is Sam Beaver at the zoo with Lewis and Serena. Lewis introduced Sam to Serena. Then he opened his money bag and showed Sam all of his money. $100 bills, $50 bills, $20 bills, tens, fives, one, and some silver coins. A great pile. Goodness, thought Sam. I hope she's not marrying him for his money. Lewis took his slate and told Sam about the fight with the keepers and about the head man wanting to keep Serena captive by clipping one of her wings. He told Sam it would ruin his life if Serena were to lose the power to fly. He explained that as soon as his father's debts were paid and the trumpet honestly belonged to him, he and Serena intended to leave civilization and return to the wild life. The sky, he wrote on his slate, is my living room. The woods are my parlor, and the lonely lake is my bath. I can't remain behind a fence all my life, and neither can Serena. She's not built that way. Somehow or other, we must persuade the head man to let Serena go. Sam stretched out on his sleeping bag on the shore of Bird Lake and clasped his hands behind his head. He looked up at the great white sky. It was clear blue with small white clouds floating slowly across. Sam knew how Lewis felt about freedom. For a long time he lay there thinking. Ducks and geese swam slowly back and forth, and then he seemed happy and very well. Curiosity, Felicity, and Apathy, the other three trumpeters, swam by and looked at the strange boy laying on the ground. Finally Sam sat up. Here's the strange boy laying on the ground. Look, all we can see, Lewis with the trumpet and Sam laying down. And the other ducks and the swans. Listen, Lewis, he said, how's this for an idea? You and Serena intend to raise a family every year, don't you? Certainly, replied Lewis on his slate. Okay, said Sam. In every family of cygnets, there is always one that needs a little extra attention. Bird Lake would be a perfect place for this one little swan that needs a little extra attention. It's a beautiful lake, Lewis, and it's a great zoo. If I can persuade the head man to let Serena remain free, would you be willing to let one of your cygnets now and then, if the zoo needs another swan for the lake? If you agree, I'll go right in and see the head man. It was now Lewis's turn to think and think. After 5 minutes, he picked up his slate. Very well, it's a deal. Then he picked up his trumpet. Oh, ever in the greening spring, he played, by bank and bough retiring, his favorite song that he wrote. The waterfall stopped swimming and listening. All of the ducks and geese and the keepers stopped what they were doing and listened. And Sam listened, and the head man in his office laid down his pencil and listened. The sound of Lewis's horn was in the air, and the whole world seemed better and brighter and wilder and freer and happier and dreamier. That's a good tune, said Sam. What is it? Lewis picked up his slate and said, oh, it's just something I made up myself. And that's the end of chapter 18.